Bolts Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Bolts Block Party. I am your host, Greg Wolf, joined by my partner, Braydon Coburn, and we are super excited for our guest this week, Frantz Jean, who is our goaltending coach, longtime goaltending coach, 13 seasons now with the Tampa Bay Lightning, just celebrated his 1,000th game. How amazing does that feel for you? Looking back on the trajectory, and we'll go through the journey, but how amazing did that feel to celebrate that 1,000 game?
Well, it was pretty special because it's a rite of passage, right, in sports when you hit those milestones, and it gives you a time to kind of stop for a second and reflect, on what you've done in the past and how you got there, and all the players you were around over a span of 13, 14 years. So it's been an emotional week in that sense, going through that thought process, and also you're thinking about your family. It's like we always think of ourselves, 14 seasons and 1,000 games, but your wife's there along the way, and your son's there along the way, and in my case, and there's a lot of sacrifice from them. It's a huge commitment from them, from me, the kids too. You miss a lot of their stuff. Sure. They're on their own to figure out a lot of things. Which most parents would be around for. So it's a time to reflect 100%.
Frantz, congratulations. I just wanted to know, what's it going to take for you to catch Nigel Kerwin? He's got like 100,000 games. I know. Right?
I don't know if that is possible. Humanly possible. Like this, Nigel's unreal. It's been 30 some years. He's he's just a rock out there, and it's
and the fact that he survived. And we talked to him about it. It's unusual in the sports industry to be with so many different ownership groups. Yes. But I think that's a testament to the individual that Nigel is, and how much he's beloved. He is
an unreal human being. He's a great human being, and he's the type of guy you just want to have around. No matter, he's great at what he does, but I think no matter what capacity you would give him responsibilities to take care of, I think you just want to have a guy like that around.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been here, this is my 17th season. So for me, it's amazing now to be able to sit down with guys like you here at the Block Party and finally get to chop it up with guys that we see behind the bench, but really don't know, the backstory. So let's get into it. You have been involved in goaltending. You've been around the game of hockey since a youth, but what really caught me was the fact that in the research I did, it said that you've been teaching and involved in goaltending since the age of 14 years old. Yeah. So, but give us the lineage of how you were involved in youth hockey, but how you became so in love with goaltending and how that became your passion.
It's really weird, and I think for most kids that's how it starts. Like I just fell in love with the gear when I was a kid,
gear.
Right?
Okay.
Like
the equipment,
the equipment, like the And in my days when I grew up in the 70s. All the goalies had their own style, right? They were play stand up. Some would be butterflies. Some would be like battlers. So it was and they all had different masks, right? With colors, and it wasn't like it is today with the amazing detail of design. It was a lot more like rough, but
Sure.
but it was cool, like the masks were cool, and so I fell in love with that really early, and. I just probably was a coach before I was a player. I played obviously growing up, but sure. I would see the game as a coach a lot. I would notice at a very young age patterns, and I tried to find solutions to those patterns. Like at 10, 11 years old. Wow. Looking at it now, it was unconsciously, but it was my way of countering. The offense, and I would notice little things about goalies, how they would play situation, their mechanics, how they would do it. I could imitate goalies, really easily in terms of their mechanics. I'd say, Gilles Gilbert plays this way. That's how he stands. That's what he does. Tretiak, that's what he does. Bunny Larocque, that's how he plays.
And you're watching that stuff live because back then there's no tape, right?
It was TV Saturday night, and I would pick up those things, and I would write things down. I would draw goalies, so I was attracted to the position right away, and then I got really lucky along the way. I met some mentors that were instrumental in my career, that really encouraged me in that direction. And it's at 14, I went as a student in a hockey school. Big hockey school in Montreal, and I went as a student, and it was probably my second year in that hockey school. And the owner of the hockey school, I guess, noticed me, on the ice, maybe helping other kids, or maybe the way I was interacting with coaches and everything. And the following Sunday, right, we finished the school on the Friday. On the Sunday morning, he gives me a call. He calls at home, and he asks to talk to me, and he says, "Would you like to come and coach the young kids next week?
Wow.
We're missing a coach."
Wow.
And I was 14 years old, so I asked my mom. I said,
Right.
Can I go? She said, "Yeah, sure." And I asked him years later. He says, "I just saw how you were acting with other kids, and I thought you would fit great with our staff." And I was 14 years old, so
That's remarkable.
So when did the dream shift for you? Because I know growing up, you had to have been thinking, I want to play in the NHL.
100%.
But then at some point for you, it must have shifted. I want to be a coach in the NHL.
Yeah.
When did that happen for you?
Probably around the age of 20.
So not too long after.
Not too long after,
at 14,
21. I finished junior. I was just okay. I was just an okay goalie. I was a fringe CHL player, and I was good enough athletically. You know what I mean? But I didn't have enough games logged. As a kid, to be able to push to be a prospect and an elite, because I started late to play. I started at 10 years old. So as a player, and then I started at 12, 13 as a goalie. You know what I mean? So I started late. So around 2021, I started to I was playing college hockey in Canada, and I started to make a shift a little bit towards coaching. I met Frank Allaire, who's like the godfather of goalie coaching, because I was a student at his hockey school. And I remember vividly and clearly the first session with him. We were all goalies from the Q. We were about 16 guys, and we're doing warm-up drills and everything. And I was so impressed how prepared he was, how he looked on the ice, how he directed the whole workout, his drills, how they were simple, how they were he cleared up so many, nuances that I had in my head and I wasn't sure, he just made everything simple. And my game in college went from there to there really quickly. And big part was him, how he simplified things for me. And I remember thinking on the ice that first session, I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. And that's who I want to be.
You grew up in an era where the Quebec goalie was the standard, right?
Factory.
All the best goalies in the world were coming out of Quebec at that time.
Factory. It was a factory. The GS Giguère, Patrick Roy was kind of the first one to come out, and then you had Luongo Giguère, name him, all the Thibault, all those guys that came and played in the NHL. They're all from my era. Marty Brodeur, where he's a year younger than I. All those guys, we all came at the same time, through kind of Frank's system and through junior hockey. And so it was very, very hard to break out, from that group, because these guys are Hall of Famers, you know what I mean? They were that good.
Hey, sorry, Mom, I didn't notice me. Marty Brodeur over there.
Yeah, exactly, So in junior, I was Marty Brodeur's backup. I played on the same junior team, and I was his backup. So that's how good, and he was a standout in junior. But for me, it was I realized I wasn't as good as those guys. I would work to try to be as good, and I always had the dream to play. But when I saw Frank and how he coached and how he would break down things, I remember we would do video sessions during the week, at the hockey school, and I would sit first seat in front, And I was so impressed how he could break the game down and simplify it, and he had NHL clips, and it was VHS in those days,
right?
And he would explain how this guy would do it wrong, and it was NHL goalies, and how, bang, he would show Patrick Roy doing it the same situation the right way, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
I love that. So what about the way you were taught opposed to how you teach goalies now? What's changed? Because it's extremely impressive, like how there was a big change when you were growing up from the stand-up style to the butterfly to kind of the modern style.
Yeah.
How is it different now?
You know what? And I'll tell you a little bit about my point of view on that. When I started, I'd say when I was coaching junior and everything, it was very technical. You know, it was all about one push, one stop, blocking, like really being, very mechanically, everything was mechanically driven, I feel that in the last probably 7-8 years, the athletic side of athletes has been put to the forefront a little bit more. Now the guys are way bigger, way better athletes, in terms of their overall athletic ability, compared to...
As far as like... what's the word I'm looking for? Expandability, to being able to
make saves out of the box.
Right.
You know what I mean? Make saves that are like that you don't expect. You think the goalie's beat, and suddenly it's like boom, boom. They're able to get there.
Gives you that wow.
Yeah. Give you that. You're like, oh wow, did he get
or
there?
With the behind the back
bingo,
thing,
exactly.
Like, what just happened? Right.
You didn't see. There was an era, I'd say, from 2000 or 2005 to 2015. You didn't see that much, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And now you see it more and more. You see those saves more and more. So only Hasek would kind of be that type of goalie that would make that save out of the box. So I think we went from really being like mechanically driven to being having a little more of a game plan where it's about where you stand in your crease, and then you let your skill set do the talking.
So, as a goalies coach, you obviously have a very small group of guys that you train and you mentor, as opposed to the assistant coaches who maybe oversee a larger group. Do you feel that is a major benefit for you as a specialized coach, because you do get to spend more one-on-one time with those guys individually?
Yeah, you build very, very close relationship with the guys. Like at the end of the day, I've always been like that because I've played the game, not to the NHL level, but I've played the game long enough that I treat it like I'm the guy, I'm the goalie, you know what I mean? And I'm in the fight with them, you know what I mean? So I think the guys always feel that I have their back, no matter what. I'm always given the benefit of the doubt to the athlete. You work hard, you compete, I'm behind you, and I'm always like that when there's a talk about pulling a goalie in the game. I'm always leave him in, you know what I mean? Give him a chance to get his game together and get some traction. And I'm always on that because I know that's how I felt when I played. You know, sometimes you get a rough start. Doesn't mean that you don't have your game. You know, sometimes it's circumstances.
Sure.
You always like to kind of keep fighting, till the end. And I think building those relationships, having a small group helps that. And those relationship becomes friendship when guys leave, when guys move on, they retire. I still talk to a bunch of guys that I've coached over the years who are still, every couple of weeks, the odd phone calls, and we chat for half hour. So it's really cool.
Does it get awkward when, let's say, you go into the coach's room, because you're in the coach's room and the head coach is like, that was a bad goal, and you got to stand up for the goalie? That's got to be a little bit of an awkward situation sometimes.
Especially if you see something differently than they see it.
It is, but you got to be able to call a spade a spade. Sometimes a bad goal is a bad goal, and you got to be able to say, Coop, you're right. Terrible goal, you know what I mean?
Has there been a time where he's goal. Like, that was a bad goal, and you're like, well, hold on a minute.
There's other bad plays on the ice, you know what I mean? And they don't necessarily end up in your net, but, you got to be able to evaluate your player honestly. And I'll be the first one to say when there's a bad goal, when there's a bad play, when he's taking a bad decision. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad game.
Right.
This is one play, So it's always, I think my job, Kobe, is more like when I get in there, to put things in perspective, like not to pile it on and make it bigger than it is, Sometimes there is a bad goal. It's a bad goal. It's a bad goal. Let's move on. It's always the next play.
Right.
That's what's important. It's You made a mistake. What's next?
So is that the mental part? Because I know you got the goalies that are at the top of the league. They got all the physical elements. They have the positioning. They know how to work. They've obviously got to this position. What can you do on the mental side? Is there mental training that you're able to do with them, or do they do that outside of kind of your scope of coaching?
Well, sometimes I'll see the athlete maybe slip a little bit mentally, becomes second guessing certain things. For me, it's always to reinforce what we're doing, right? Reinforce like the ABCs of what we're doing. Make it as clear as possible that there's no ambiguity, there's no gray zone. That's the big thing for a pro athlete, is that when you play, like you don't want to be taking. I don't know if it's gonna make sense, Colby, and you can correct me because you've played a long time.
Here we go.
I will never correct you.
No, but
never.
you don't want to make decisions. You want to make reads.
Okay.
You want to be able to grab the puck, make your play. You know what I mean? Same thing for a goalie. Play comes, pass goes. It's read and react.
Right.
When
what happens when instincts? Right. You're
Yes,
talking instincts.
yes.
So what happens when they're second guessing those instincts?
Well, that's the thing. Then I got to simplify things.
Okay.
In my drills, I got to simplify things. I got to simplify the read so that they recognize the pattern probably quicker, so that they can read and react and beat the play at the end of the day, So it's we have a sports psychologist in Ryan Hamilton who's unbelievable in terms of helping the athletes, find solutions and clearing the air on stuff like that. But for me, it's always about making things simple, making things black and white, having a clear game plan so that the guys can go out and just not think and just play and have fun. That's the main thing.
So how do you differentiate, Frantz, between a good goalie and a great goalie? How much of is it based upon statistics?
For me, it's the statistics is secondary.
Okay.
Has always been secondary.
Okay.
I don't look much at stats during the season.
Okay.
At the end of the season, I look, okay, what have we done this year?
Gotcha.
I compile a ton of stuff, a lot of stats, just to tell me what do we got to work on.
Okay.
But the NHL goalie stats, comparing to other guys, I don't look at that as much.
Okay.
I think that blurs the water sometimes, like it muddies the water, in terms of how you see things,
Okay.
So for me, what makes a great goalie versus a good goalie, a lot of time is the how much of a gamer he is, his ability to close game, his ability to make the big saves, like in key moments in game, when it's tied, when the game's on the line, when always like everybody laughs, but I say when the game's at the plate, when it's
right.
When you need a big hit, can the goalie get that for you,
Sure.
And that's what great goalies do. They just find a way to close games, they just find a way to win games, and obviously this ability to be a gamer is built through your technical game, your ability to respect a game plan and to execute a game plan. But there's a mental toughness to being a gamer. Not everybody has that, and it's the same thing up front. It's the same thing for D-man. It's the same thing for There's guys that are elite have that mental toughness that is unparalleled. That is very hard to match.
So every organization wants a guy like
Yes,
that, right?
they're hard to find.
And I know you have an unbelievable relationship with Julian Breezewell, the general manager. So when they're looking at prospects, do they come to you, Frankie, and they give you like some tape and say, hey, we would like your opinion on this guy? Or are you just focused on coaching the NHL goalies and that's kind of outside your...
More that now, focused on coaching the NHL goalies. I used to have a little more input into the drafting and things like that. Like our head scout would send me, these are the 4 guys we're looking at. Give us your opinion. We hired a few years ago a goalie scout, Jared Wayman, who's really, really thorough, really good at what he does. And he's more the point guy, in terms of identifying the young guys coming up or the free agents coming up that fit into what we do,
Sure.
and fit into the game plan that I bring to the table, So he's really good at it. Jonas Johansson is basically his find, and that's he did a great job with
Fantastic.
that. So
Yeah.
hats off to him.
So when you mentioned Jojo Johansson, so when he came here, do you call Colorado's goalie coach and you pick his brain and say,
100%,
hey, what you do that, and you guys kind of share things about what went wrong for him, what he needs to work on?
Yeah,
or?
I've called actually Peter Budaj, who's their minor league coach,
Yeah,
and
Peter.
Peter played here,
Yeah, he
right?
did,
And
yeah.
I got a great relationship with Peter, so I called him and we talked, 15, 20 minutes about Jonas, and he was very, very complimentary, in terms of his work ethic, his ability to compete, and is him as a person and everything. So it reinforced what I was seeing, because we already started camp when I gave him a call just to check in and see if I missed anything or if there's anything I should know, right? Just doing due diligence, and like Peter spoke very, very highly of Jonas, and rightfully so. We're very impressed with him.
So funny story about Peter Buda. His kid was our Thunder kid one game, and it was during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I always interview the Thunder kid up at 218. And the very last question I normally always ask, or at least I did that season, was who's your favorite player? Expecting him to say my dad, and he busts out with Nikita Kucherov. And I was like, what? And then he realized he messed up. He's like,
no.
and my dad. So it was a funny, great Peter Buda
He knew.
story.
Yeah.
Well, your son plays hockey, right?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
And he's not a goalie.
No, he's not. No, he's not a
So
goalie.
was that something you wanted him, or it was up to him?
I
or
left
how-
it to him, really. Like, my son's personality, like, he's very creative. He's a very active kid, like, even as a young kid, he was he was a little bit hyperactive. But we've always encouraged that as parent, to use that energy, like, we never tamed that down and say, hey, you got to quiet, you got to calm down. It was the opposite. It was like, hey, let's go play, So he was like me. He liked the gear at a young age, probably 5, 6, 7 years old. And he tried it out. He says, I'd like to try it. So he came to one of my goalie schools for a couple of days, and we were in Montreal, and he tried it for 2 days. He was actually pretty good for his age. And he just said, Dad, I like to play up front more. I just like it more.
Was that hard for you?
Not at all.
Not at
I
all.
was like, no
where you
problem,
go,
buddy.
right.
Like, and he's, like, to be a goalie, you have to be a defender. You know what I mean? Like, and he's a creator. He's kind of the opposite in his personality. He wants to be on the attack. He wants to create. He wants to, So for him, it just didn't fit his personality, and that's all right. So, he's a good player in his own right, and I think he's taken the right decision.
You mentioned personality, and growing up in hockey, the talk is always, hey, he's a goalie, he's a little bit weird. That's
They're different.
they're different. Yeah, they're different.
Different
We'll say
guys,
that they're different.
Yeah.
Do you buy into that, or do you see that, or?
different.
It's a little. I think in the past it was more than now. I think now you meet guys that are goalies that are, like great room guys, very outgoing, very relaxed, and everything. I think back in the day, because of the gear and the less protection and all that stuff, guys was like, I would never go in the net. Like, these guys are nuts, And you had to be a little bit different to go in there back in the day. But now, I think. I do believe you need a certain personality to be a goalie, a pitcher, a quarterback, those positions where the lights and the cameras are on you all the time. Not every personality fits in that. But I don't know if they're that weird. They're like it's
The goalie coach telling everybody that
exactly.
his goalies are weird.
They're fine. They're fine. They're
So
not
during
weird.
your time here, you've actually helped produce, a Vezina Trophy winner, Conn Smythe winner, 5 Vezina finalists, NHL All-Star with Bish and Vazzy. You need to update your website because some of those stats are outdated.
Okay.
Kobe and I had to double check, so make sure you update the website.
Okay, I'll do that.
But I mean, what an accomplishment for you. I mean, obviously Bish and Vazzy, 2 of the best goalies that have played for this organization. So I'm gonna ask you this: if you had to bet your house on a game of crease to crease with 10 shots on goal from blue space to blue space, which goalie that you have coached over the years would you be most confident in helping you keep your house?
Well, I'm going to say Vasi, close second Bish.
Okay.
Like, both are both unbelievable gamers.
Sure.
We remember what Bish did for the organization. Like, he just put our team on the map. You know what I mean? Like we were a good team before. You know, we were getting there before he came in. He came in, and we just got to a whole other level. You know. You know, and what he did to bring us to the finals, you know, in 2015, and you know, like really impressive. But Vasi, you know, his body of work. How about, you know, game sevens, you know, clinching games, how clutch he is, how much of a gamer he is, and you know, like it's hard not to not to take Vasi. I tell you that, you know, both guys, but Vasi has the edge there.
So if you have to build a perfect goalie, are you kind of combining those two guys together?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, Kobe. Like, you know, Bish had such an advantage on everybody with his size. You know, I always said that to Bish, like when we acquired him. You know, I would tell him, Bish, like you're the most intimidating goalie in the NHL. Always remember that. You know, don't ever forget that. Guys are coming down; they see nothing. Like they're like, "How am I going to beat this guy?" You know.
I can attest to that.
Yeah,
and you would see it when you were other players. They were just like they would make plays that they would normally not make because they would shoot that puck. But now they're trying to pass a perfect thing to the back door, and you're looking at them like,
"What are you doing?
What's going on?" But you kind of get that, like what they're looking at. They can't even see the net.
Right. Exactly, and he was, and I said, I always said to him, be that intimidating factor. You know what I mean? And he was like for his tenure here in Tampa, like. You know, you played with him like you played with Bish, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, like never a doubt in our mind, you know, big game, Bish in the net, we're fine. You know what I mean? Like
he was the first goalie that I played with that, you know, I looked at him and I was like, man, I don't know, he might be able to handle the puck better than me.
Oh yeah.
You know, the way he could shoot the puck and not just that, like there's a lot of goalies that can handle the puck, but his decision making with the puck was elite as well.
Sure. Yeah. So Frantz, what are some of your...
Just to finish on that thought, like Bish brought us to a level, you know, then Vasi came in, he brought us to a whole other level. You know what I mean? Like his talent, his compete level, his skating ability.
And he got to work with Bish.
And he got to work, and Bish was a mentor to him big time early in his career. And, you know, like Vasi just came in and just... you know, blew the lid off the roof, and you know the stuff that he accomplished up to now in his career is
Hall
really
of Fame
impressive.
worthy. Hall of Fame
really
worthy.
impressive.
What are some of some of the best Cooperisms that have really stuck with you?
Cooperism in terms of words,
just words, phrases, things he said in the locker room, just things as a coach that just have stuck with you. There's a lot of them. I mean, but what are some that have stuck with you?
The big thing about Coop is Coop has an unreal ability to understand the pulse of the team at a moment, you know, at a moment's notice. He comes in the room, he understands what to say, how to say it, and what words to use. Okay. And that's to me, and I always told that to Coop, he's better in the bigger the moment, the better Coop is.
Gotcha.
In terms of addressing the team, and I think that's one of his big strengths. One of the words I'll always remember, and he's like a lawyer, right? So he has the words to kind of fit what he wants to say. And I remember it was early in his career with the Lightning. We were in Norfolk actually, and he's explaining a drill. And it's a complicated drills to the player, and he says, and the drill starts, and it's like. Guys are like, you know, like a little bit all over the place, and he kind of whistles. He says, "Guys," he says, "don't get tangled in the minutia of the drill." And like we had like Palat, Ratko Gudas, you know, we had like a bunch of European players, and everybody looked at each other like, "What?" Like, you know, and even me as a French Canadian, I went to Cuba. I said, "What does minutia mean?" Like, you know, like I've never heard the word before, the minutia of the drill, but it seems like it's a word that, you know, but I've never heard a coach say that, you know, so it was like, then he explained to me, well, it's just how complicated it is, the details of the drills. Like, oh, okay. Well, this guy didn't understand it, you know.
Speaking foreign to them,
the
foreigners.
So speaking of practice, I don't know if people really realize sometimes the goalie or the goalie that's playing, or there's injuries to the goalies, right? And we don't have enough time to call somebody up. So we need a goalie for practice. And I've seen you a couple times
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
career.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You've
boy.
suited up and
Oh,
you've
yeah.
gone into the net
Yeah, oh,
for
yeah.
practice.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what is that
Yeah.
kind of like? Do you like doing that? Or
Are they aiming for your head?
No, actually, the guys are great.
Do,
yeah.
do you know that we're aiming for your head?
That's what's going on. Eh? No, actually, the guys are great. Stammer does it once in a while. He comes in and he flips a puck right on from
Sure he
in
does.
close, you
Right.
know, like then he laughs. But no, actually, I really like doing it. It's an unreal workout. First of all, at my age, I'm 52 years old, so it's like you get there, you get a great sweat, like it's awesome.
Nice.
You know, and I like doing it actually, you know, because it gives me the perspective of the goalie.
Yeah.
You know, and how it feels and how it feels to go through certain drills, and are you gassed, are you not gassed, or you know, like
It's
You can
literally
relate.
putting-
You
you're
I
can
can
putting yourself
relate
in their
exactly.
skates, right.
Puts me in their shoes for 20 minutes, you
Yeah.
know, in morning skates or a practice where it's a little longer. So I do enjoy it, and the guys are. I know the guys are not shooting as
We're
hard
appreciative
as they can.
because
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
nothing
Yeah.
worse than shooting on an
Empty net.
empty net.
Right,
You know, when
absolutely.
you have somebody in
Exactly.
there, it just kind of it helps.
So I know the guys, and Pointer's always, you know, like a couple of years ago he went and media asked him, hey, how was the goalie coach in the net? He says, he's pretty good when we shoot on him, you know. It's like, you know,
Nice.
I know the guys don't really aim for corners. So
All right, Frantz, we got to get ready to wrap it up. So we got to wrap up our final segment presented by our friends at Highlight. It's fact or fiction. It's pretty simple. Is this fact or is this fiction? Are we ready? Here we go. First question, Frantz, you're more of a tennis guy. We know this. But if you had to take on Julien Brisebois in a game of pickleball, you would defeat him.
that is fiction.
Okay.
Julien Brisebois is like plays every day pickleball, and he's
we've heard.
like highly.
He plays in the GM's
Oh yeah,
league. Like,
exactly.
there's like we
yeah.
found out there's like a
I'm
whole
not
league.
there yet. I'm not there yet.
That's all right.
I wouldn't beat him.
The big cat is the most improved, talented goalie you have ever worked with in your career.
Fact.
That is a fact.
Yeah, that's definitely a fact.
You are second cousins to three-time Grammy Award winner Wyclef Jean of the Fugees.
That is fiction. I'd love to say that though, but yeah, I'm a big fan actually. Yeah,
I
yeah,
figured
yeah,
I
yeah.
had to ask.
So
We
that's
had to ask.
fiction.
I mean, okay,
that
so
is
they're
fiction.
not related, guys.
That is
Wyclef,
fiction,
he
yeah.
is coming here though with the Fugees soon to Emily
Really?
Arena. I think
Wow.
next month, I believe.
Maybe we can get him on
I was gonna
stage.
say we
Maybe
need like
Yeah,
Wyclef
yeah,
Jean,
yeah.
Frantz Jean.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
seems like maybe we should make the connection, Emily family.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Fact or fiction? You have gone on record to say your top 5 goalies of all time are Trishek at 1, Vazzy 2, Waugh at 3, Marty Brodeur 4, Dominic Hasek at 5. Is that your
fact.
top 5?
Yeah.
That is a fact.
That is fact. Yeah.
And why in that order?
Well, I think I grew up watching Tretiak play. Vladislav Tretiak was a great Russian goalie in the 70s and early 80s. And in his era, in his like 15 years of international play, he was by far the best goalie in the world. Like, it was hands down. It was nowhere close. He would come into those international competition. He'd be lights out. He'd come and play against NHL teams. He'd be lights out. You know, like there's actually, it's on YouTube. You can go and check it out. The 1970, I think it's 75 New Year's Eve game, Montreal Canadiens against the Russian Army. If you want to see what he was, go watch that game. Shots were like 40-something to 13, and it was a 3-3 tie. He was
Wow.
playing against Ken Dryden at the other side.
Right.
Ken Dryden, Hall of Famer. And Dryden struggled the whole game with the puck movement of the Russians, and Lafleur. And Montreal Canadiens was a great team at that time, you know, mid-70s.
Wow.
And Tretiak was unbelievable, like, in that game. But that was him all the time, you know, when he would come and play in North America.
It would have been something to see him in the NHL in his prime.
It would have been. He got drafted in Montreal actually, and they tried to negotiate, you know, but in those days, you know, the Russian government wouldn't allow it. But it would have been really interesting to see how he would have fared. But I see him, and to be honest, I was lucky enough to coach with Tretiak, you know, in his hockey schools, and he coached me in private sessions and things like that when I was still playing. And I see a lot of similarity in Vasi when watch Vasi versus Tretiak.
Interesting.
A lot of similarities in the way they play, they compete, and even their body language and everything. So, yeah, you know,
That's a good number 1-2 punch.
1-2
Understood.
punch for
All right. Word on the street, fact or fiction, is that you can do a fairly good Harry Carey impersonation.
Well, oh my God, we all know that the best impression of Harry Carey is Brian Breesman.
Right, but can you hit us with something? Like, how about Highlight's your favorite beer?
Hey, Highlight's my favorite beer. How about you?
I like it too, Franz. Oh, maybe crack one open now.
My friends calls me Whiskers.
I'll climb under the table now.
Curious like a cat. Oh my God.
Not bad. All right, listen. Did you want to hit him with the bonus?
Yeah, I got a bonus question. I got a bonus question. So
fact or fiction.
I kind of gave you a little bit of warning before we came on, but when I was walking in here, I ran into Vasi and I said,
Yes.
Vasi, give me something to ask Frantz. And he wanted to know
Fact or fiction?
fact or fiction, right? And we all know you're as dedicated to this game, to your craft, as anybody in the league. And he wants to know, have you ever had a circumstance when you were playing goalie where you had to go to the bathroom so bad, but you didn't want to come out of the game?
Oh my God, how did you guys find that out? Actually, yeah, it did happen in college. That's a fact.
And that was the nicest way I could put it.
Yes,
Very
it's,
PG.
It happened in college. I'm lactose intolerant, so before the game, I eat my pasta, and there's no more. I have no more cheese. We just have a sort of cheese in the fridge, but it's like one of those specialty cheese and everything. So I grate that on my pasta.
Oh boy!
I go along, take the bus. We're playing at college that's 40 minutes away. We get there, play the first period, second period, but it starts to, how it
the
is.
bubble guts.
Yeah. And then I'm sitting in the room between the second and the third. I always took my top off, and I'm like, I'm going to have to go to the bathroom here. And then when I make the decision, I got to go. Coaches walk in to make a speech, and so now I'm stuck. So coaches makes a long speech too, it's not even a quick one. It's I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to go. So we have to get on the ice. I put my gear on, I go, and I try to hold it. I'm working to hold it. And with about 5 minutes to go, I'm like, screw it. I can't anymore. It's like a disaster. It's like hazard. Player, one of my D comes close to me at a face-off. He says, "Holy smoke, smells like here." I tell, yeah, I my pants, So so that's how it. And the game went into overtime, so I had to play the overtime with that. Let's just say my whole gear was done. It went in the garbage. I changed everything.
Did it leak on the ice?
No, it did not. It just stayed.
It
was like a diaper, right? It just stayed in there. So yeah, that actually happened. That's actually happened.
Right,
That's how we're gonna end it.
I literally am in tears. Wow, thank you, Franz. That was
the infamous.
I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's gonna go down in block party folklore history. So
exactly.
you can claim that one. So. Franz, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Congratulations
guys.
on the
That was awesome.
1,000 and to many more.
Amazing.
Amazing stuff here. Thank you
you
to our friends at Highlight. Another amazing episode of the Bolts Block Party. A new episode will be coming your way soon.